Lance.
Brett, what's up, bro? How you been?
Episode 49.
Wait, I thought we were 48.
49, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. We have gone a long ways.
We've gone a long ways.
I can't believe it.
50's next.
Wow. Bro, that's how old you are.
I will be 51 in January, so
Dang.
it's getting there.
Mm.
All right. We're gonna get to business quick here.
Okay.
Because we wanted to do a short episode.
Short episode.
Just because it's a busy week.
Okay.
I wanted us to think about what are the few books or authors that as a therapist you keep referring and referencing in therapy. Like you get up, you pull their book from the shelf, you talk about it all the time, you're quoting them.
Yes.
I'm just curious because I know what mine are and I'll share mine, but I want to hear what are those for you? And I count, if you're listening to this and you go to if you're on our Substack, we'd love to see you post on your Substack too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
What your authors are. So I'll mention that at the end. Okay, Lance.
Awesome. Okay. So I have a few favorites that I'm going to talk about. This is definitely not all of them. I'll name author high level.
Okay.
Obviously Terry Hargrave. We're going to talk about him. And have you heard of him?
Anything outside of restoration therapy and mindful marriage?
Okay. This is outside. So this is outside the catalog. This is RT adjacent.
Yeah, because we're always talking about RT.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good.
Which is true.
All right. So I'm going to name a few books here that to me, I think are good. And then do you want to trade off back and forth?
Sure.
Okay. It'll be funny if we picked the same books.
I know. Okay. Go ahead. What's a book that you always
Number one,
therapy?
Brennan Manning, Abba's Child.
Abba's Child, Brennan Manning.
Man, guys, this book has rocked my world over and over again. Whenever somebody asks me a good book, I always recommend this book. This is so great. Particularly if you're doing integrated work, it just really casts a scene of kind of dealing with that. He calls it the false self, and kind of finding peace without false self. And I find it great for anybody that's struggling with identity work. So if you're working with that client that comes in the room and they hate themselves or they're struggling with that, I always lean in on Abba's Child.
I love it.
What do you got?
All right. You ready?
Do it.
It's like Christmas here. In the Name of Jesus.
Oh, you almost grabbed that one. Good.
By Henry Nouwen. I'll tell you why. I've reread it lots of times. It's short. I used to make my college student leaders read it too during the school year. And maybe it's too deep for me, too personal, but he talks about the temptations to be powerful and spectacular and relevant, right? And he looks at the
which are all three things that you are.
Yeah. And for identity work, I say this all the time because when I'm working with someone and they're a Christian and I want them maybe to meditate or reflect on a passage. Nouwen talks about Mark 1, 9-11. You are my son, whom I love. With you, I'm well pleased. Right? And Jesus, or God says that to Jesus as he's standing there in the river Jordan. A dove is descending. And he tells him who he is and who his identity is before Jesus has done anything spectacular. Nouwen's he hasn't healed anybody. He's not a miracle worker. He's just this backwoods Nazarene carpenter,
Yeah.
but he knows his truth. His truth is, I'm God's son, I'm God's daughter, right? You are my son.
Mhm.
So obviously, if I'm working with females, I'm like, you are my son, you are my daughter, whom I love. With you, I'm well pleased. And it's so important because then he's thrust into the wilderness and he's tempted to perform,
Yeah.
turn bread into stone. Nope, backwards. Turn stone into bread.
That'd be
Jump
funny.
off the temple. Let the angel catch you. Make yourself ruler. And so I find myself referencing this book a lot because it's easy for
Mm.
clients to read. I think it hits home hard around these identity issues.
Yeah.
And now struggled in his own life, and that comes out in his writing. So I think he's someone people resonate with. So
That's awesome.
in the name of Jesus, Henry Nouwen.
Mm. Love it. Okay. Next one. So we hit identity. Now I want to hit safety, which is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Okay, guys, when you look at the Enneagram, which is this personality scale, I am a high 7. Okay. And the 7 is known for their need to avoid pain. And 7s do whatever they can to stay away from anything. I am an escape artist in the name of fun, right? That's in the name of Jesus that you just said. Um, Viktor Frankl takes us into the pain like no other. What I really like about the book is it really leans in on a lot of the things that we talk about when it talks about regulating people, that how to deal with safety in an unsafe world. It's really heavy, right? Because Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust. It's his Holocaust story. So it starts off with his Holocaust story where he's just kind of just laying it out there. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is how I got through this. This is how I got through this. He's telling stories throughout. In there, you see the 3 things that Terry talks about when it talks about being safe in an unsafe world, which are you ready? Mm-hmm. Number 1 is to know that we're not alone, right? I think Viktor Frankl talks about this moment where he's with one of his people that's in there, and there's first off, they're together as a group going through this miserable experience together, which helps them, knowing someone else is in pain with you makes a big difference. But there's also this element of like not being alone, that there's some he imagined his wife being with him, and they made each other memorize these stories that they would say to their wives once they got out. So this sense of not being alone. Another part is agency, right? And Viktor talks about like these moments where he has agency. In fact, his quote is like, just because they treat you like dogs doesn't mean you have to act like a dog, right? And I think that's really important in the book, is that he talks about this idea of like, they cannot take away our attitudes, right? So we have, even though they take away this, they take away that, they take away this, we can still control our attitudes. When I have these clients that are complaining about their miserable spouse, whether it's their husband or their wife, and how they're the meanest person on earth, I'm like, well, Viktor Frankl had to deal with somebody that was like threatening to kill them every single day. So I'm sure it's not that bad. But it's like, just because you're being treated like a dog doesn't mean you have to act like a dog. There's agency there. And then there's this other piece of like being able, like when we talk about safety, is this idea around knowing that there's something beyond, right? There's something that we can learn from this or get from this. And, Viktor talks about this moment where they were outside of the internment camp, and he sees this tree, and on the tree, he sees a leaf, right? And just the brilliance and the beauty of the leaf that gave him a hope of what he called the supernatural. So that there's life beyond this life. There's more that's out there. So anyways, Man's Search for Meaning, great one for anybody that's dealing with safety.
First remember reading that in college. Good book. I am gonna
What you
say a
got?
disclaimer because there I have some feeling by the time we end, our books might be slightly biased by the fact that we are, um, well, you're not middle aged. Two white middle aged Christian men skew high heavily to certain thinkers, authors. You know what I'm saying? I'm realizing
Mm,
we might have a lot of the similar guys and the need to diversify our reading list. Is that fair to say?
I would probably agree with that. Yeah.
We'll find out here as we get closer. Okay. Uh, Parker Palmer's Let Your Life Speak,
Ah.
Listening for the Voice of Vocation. Again, another short book that I've reread multiple times over the years. There's two reasons I go to this book a lot. Um, One is he's reflects on his own journey of depression throughout the years, significant depression, where he was basically bedridden for months at a time, and he tells this beautiful story of when he was in therapy, and his therapist says to him, um, because Parker he had described this. Parker was this performer, and he had been flying too high to the sun, if you will, and it all
Oh,
kind of came crashing.
much like Icarus.
Yes, and at one point during therapy, the therapist says to him, Parker, I want you to imagine um, that your depression is the hand of God pushing you down to the ground where it is safe to stand.
Mm,
And he, of course, when the therapist said that, it was too like, that was crazy. What are you talking about? And anything we repeat that's not actually in the therapy room kind of sounds crazy, anyways, sometimes to people.
yeah.
But there's this beautiful reframe in the book of how he was able to be in his depression and found this idea of God holding him and making him safe as he was pressed to the ground, where for him it was safe to stand. And I'm not
Mm,
saying everyone should reframe their depression that way, um, but it's just a beautiful story of a person working their way through depression and finding God in the midst of it. Even as I share it now, I'm not doing it justice. So, um,
mm,
and then he reflects a lot on vocation, obviously, which the book is about, and this idea of voce in Latin, of his voice. So,
mm,
vocation is essentially this voice outside calling you towards something. And so, a lot of times that comes up in my therapy work as we're reflecting on vocation, um, or we're talking about depression, and some people just kind of resonate with that story. So, Parker Palmer, Let Your Life Speak, and read it. I don't do the therapist story justice,
mm.
but it's a beautiful story.
Dude, that's heavy. Depression is the hand of God pushing you down.
Yeah, and I got to reread it. It's been a little while. He's not saying that God like gave him depression, but Parker had been flying too high and was disconnected from reality, and he was just flat. And he just had this image. He wanted to see God is holding you on the ground where it's safe to stand.
Mm,
And and so he tells it real beautiful. It's not a story where you see on the social media now where people are like, "Oh, if you got depression, it's this or that," or I'm not going to ramble. There's some social media stuff going on where if people are depressed, they're talking about how God gave it to them for that reason and stuff. So, all right,
so good.
we'll go on.
Okay.
Good book.
Good stuff. Okay. So this next book, it is this one I probably read at least every other year. Okay. And there's a ton of books by this author. So it's hard for me to just pick one, but this is probably like I wouldn't even call it his best work, but like for some reason, it just calls me back multiple times. And this is someone that you and I both love, who is Ray Anderson. Okay.
Yep.
And this book, I keep it in my office. I should get another copy for home, but it's called Living the Spiritually Balanced Life by Ray Anderson. And
Acquiring the virtues you admire in others. Yep.
yes, Basically, what he does is he tells it's a great devotional, right? And he goes through kind of the vices, right? And the vices are, there's vices of you know of extra, and then vices of not enough, right? And then he goes into the virtues. And to me, I think, as a person that goes from one side to the other often,
Yeah.
it's a good centering piece for me. Hence, living the spiritually balanced life. For instance, he talks about you know, the difference between fear and foolhardiness is actually leaning in on courage, so like there's this kind of difference. So for me, it always is a good reminder of like, hey, Lance, find some centering in your life. But I mean, I could go on and on about Ray Anderson, but that's probably, for some weird reason, I find myself
Mm.
going back to that Ray Anderson devotional.
Yeah, I got a bunch of his books, some up behind me and then at home, and I'm thinking about him a lot when I'm doing therapy and
Yeah.
some of the works he's written. Not all the books are very accessible, as you know, like just to give a client.
This one is accessible though.
Yeah,
This
he
is
gets into
one
the
that you can actually give to anybody
yeah. Ray Anderson studied um,
under Torrance.
under Torrance, who studied under Karl Barth, and
Yeah.
he's a Barthian, and it can get in the weeds like pretty heavy. And I love it. I
Yes.
love his writings. I almost pulled his book on being human down, or on being family, phenomenal.
Wait, I haven't read On Being Family.
Yeah. Let me see here.
I have On Being Human. I don't have On Being Family.
A social theology of the family. Dude, it's like Christmas for you right now. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How do I not know this one? Oh, okay. Wow. I'm so excited. I have
Well,
read so many of his books and I haven't
full
read that one.
disclosure, I haven't read the other Anderson book that you just referenced either, so I wrote that down.
Oh, good.
Yeah. This was my dad's copy. My dad, when Fuller Seminary back in the 80s was on the Grand Canyon College campus,
Mm-hmm.
my dad, as a pastor, went over and took a class, audited a class by Ray Anderson. And
So
this is one of the
interesting.
textbooks. It was like right after my mom died, like 1986, and my dad was in a class with Ray Anderson, and it just changed his life. Yeah.
Wow. We
All
need
right.
more stories on your dad, bro.
Well, we'll tell some stories. Um,
What you got?
A Grief Observed by C.S.
Oh,
Lewis.
okay. I'm switching up. I'm switching up then.
Um, I found this copy, in fact, in my mailbox in 1995 at Grand Canyon University. And the chaplain on campus, put it in my mailbox because he knew my mom had passed away. Uh, at that point, I guess it was like 9 years before, and he just wanted to encourage me. And it's 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 one of the best books on grief, and I can't do it justice, but there's just some beautiful lines in there. And I think when I work with a lot of clients who are grieving either the death of somebody or the loss of something,
Yeah.
I think I recommend this book a lot because Lewis is, it was his journal before they published it into a book,
Yeah.
right?
He
Um,
actually he published it under a pseudonym.
yeah. And he's honest with God. He's really angry and upset in the beginning at God slamming the door and locking it and bolting it. And he works his way through the journal, through his own grief. And I feel like it's an honest account of grief and loss that sometimes many Christians don't encounter in their circles. So
Yeah.
it's a good one.
Oh man. I had C.S. Lewis. I mean, it's just
You can
so
pull
great.
another
But
one
yeah,
up.
yeah. So wait, you want to go adjacent, or I can pivot.
You can do what you want.
All right. So this next one is a more recent one, and this is we have gone with a lot of white people. Here's another white person, but it's a female. This is Brene Brown's "Daring Greatly." Um, I read this book a while back, and I just really appreciated Brene's research, and I appreciate it. Just it really gave me a new view of looking at the plight of different people, particularly around Brene Brown. For those of you that don't know, and have been living underneath a rock for the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Um, she's a shame researcher, and she has really gone about helping people walk into the fullness of who they are. Um, and I just really love this book. It really inspires me, particularly when she talks about finding uh, um, what's his face Theodore Roosevelt's treatise on uh, the man in the arena,
Yeah.
and that line, the part about that where she describes his I should find it. I should have it memorized by now. I've had read it so many times. Just really, anyways, it just really moved me, and there's so many different parts that are throughout Brene Brown's work, and particularly this one that just like really meant a lot to me. So I would definitely recommend to clients Brene Brown when it comes to looking through these types of things.
Yeah. Brene's great. You
B,
definitely have to
B,
get
you almost got her right. You almost got her to talk for you.
yeah. Back when in 2011, I was the vice president of the Dallas Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. And I sent a query, say to query
Curie.
out. I was in charge of all the speakers for our CEUs every month. So I contacted her and her people got back to me. It's like 2011. They were great. And so then it came to what's it going to cost to have Brene come out? And for an hour talk, it was $25,000. So I couldn't afford that. Um,
Dude, that was a deal compared to what
that
she
was
costs now.
cheap. Yeah, I think right now, from what I've read, I think it's like 250,000 for her to give a talk. So,
Do you
whew.
want me to read this quote?
Yeah, read the quote.
All right. This is to inspire you to talk to your clients when you're talking about their stuff and all this stuff. This is the line. This is from the speech Citizenship in a Republic. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, and who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best, in the end, the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly. Dang! Mm.
It's good. It's good.
Come on. Vulnerability is not weakness. Come into therapy. It's good for your soul. What you got?
All right. I was actually, I was thinking about Mi Young in our conversation with her
Yeah.
about she was saying how everyone has a culture and sometimes we think, because you and I were kind of apologetic about like we read all these, there's certain type of authors and thinkers, and she's like, everybody's got a culture they're kind of raised on, an environment and everything. And so I was reflecting on that, thinking of like I said, my books kind of are not as diverse as I'm sharing them as I'd like them to be. Does it make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So one of my challenges in New Year is to read a little more from thinkers and globally. Um, Breathing Underwater by Richard Rohr.
Oh, nice.
Spirituality and the 12 steps. Um, I have a lot of people who are in recovery. A lot of people go to a recovery ministry in our area called Regeneration, or Regen for short. I've gone through it myself. It's a 12-step program. Um, so I'll often refer this book. This book was originally not a book. It was a recording of him on audio cassette that had got passed around like all over the country over time. People
Yes.
just passing the cassettes around, and eventually people bugged him enough to put it into a book. So he put it into a book, and it's basically walking through the 12 steps, but looking at the teachings of Jesus and a real like spiritual emphasis on it, and combining each step with teachings of Jesus. And there's this beautiful image in there, and I can't find the exact quote right now, but he talks about that it's the deep work, it's the recovery work, the healing work that takes place, you know, in the basements of churches and in the classrooms on Wednesdays while people are drinking their cold cups of coffee, who are
Mm,
doing the hard work that over the centuries has breathed life up through the grates of the church and into the building. That it's the people doing this type of healing work is what breathes the Holy Spirit into the rest of the church. And he says that
mm.
more beautifully than me, but I thought about just the work that we do as therapists of like doing this day in day out work, which sometimes we always wonder like how much of an impact is it making sometimes, but it's this work of like this breathes life into these communities, into these churches. And so Breathing Underwater, awesome book. Let's do one
Hey,
more piece. How about that? Because we could go
all right.
on all day.
Yeah, I
And
was
this is
debating if we
five
were going to
books a
do.
piece and 10 total, which gives enough people to kind of like, oh, I got to read some books.
Yeah. Um, Man, I'm debating between which one to do. Um, all right, I'm gonna do this one. This is for all my because I know we have other. This is Feminist Prayers for My Daughter
Mm-hmm.
by Shannon K. Evans. Um, okay, this book is chock full of different prayers that you can pray over your daughter. And I just there's been so many prayers that have locked me up while I'm working through it, and just like really asking for God to help in the healing. And it's I don't know. I think about the plight of women. I know there's like this big thing about what men are going through, but I think the plight of women in society today is really heavy. So I've really appreciated this book. It goes through a whole bunch of quick topics like relationships, embodiment, spirituality, womanhood, wholeness, justice, equality, and big milestones. And There's been moments where I'll be praying over my wife or over my daughter, and I'll like open up this book and I'll be like, oh, that's exactly what I wanted to say. Um, so, um,
I love it,
yeah,
man. I'm looking at it right now.
yeah. Do we read one of the prayers?
Yeah, let's read it.
Okay, let's see here. I'll do for freedom. So in the beginning, it gives a different name for like a different way of addressing the Godhead. O faithful liberator, to be human is to seek control over our surroundings, circumstances, and relationships. Yet freedom can be found only in the release. Unclench my daughter's fists from holding on too tightly to the desire to control. Invite her to experience the freedom of letting go. Liberate her from the burden of expectations, the expectation of society or of authority figures of herself. Yes, even my own. You who break every chain, set my daughter free from the lure of worldly success and people pleasing. May she please herself, and in doing so, may she please you. May her trust be radical. May her assurance be steadfast. May she not stake her identity in obtaining a certain outcome, but rather know who she is when the curtain falls. May my daughter be inwardly blissfully free. Amen.
I love that, dude.
Dude, good
Good
prayer.
stuff. Yeah. Whew. Okay.
What you got?
It was um
Or did I hit you?
no, actually that whole conversation had me like thinking on some stuff. And I'm just looking at something here in front of me because I know I was reflecting on because I have a daughter and a son, and I was having this conversation with my daughter who's in college, and I was like,
Yeah.
boys are really struggling right now. Like I see it in my practice, like I've never seen it before. Like there's some stuff going on
Yeah.
that's like really important, but as I tell her, like uh, historically, girls, I mean, talk about the oppression of women. I mean, historically, and my daughter, um, some of the stuff we've had to navigate when she was like in grade school and high school, and just the treatment of how boys are favored and stuff. And so that had me thinking too, like, that prayer to women is so important. And so I was thinking about men and about boys, and I'll see if I can find it, but I'll show the book first.
Okay.
There's a couple different books, but I I recommend. I quote this book a lot.
Ah,
Larry Larry
that's so
Crabb,
funny.
huh?
It's funny how we did this.
The Silence of Adam,
Yes.
and he Larry Crabb takes this position that in the garden Adam was silent, right, when he could have spoken up and said anything, right, but instead he blames. And so Larry Crabb kind of paints this overview of the first 50 chapters of Genesis where men are basically silent and don't speak up and don't say anything. And so there's this thing I like in the book about the importance of being a man who like is life giving and breathes life. And so I'm trying to find. If you hold on for a second, there's a section for boys. He says,
Yeah, that's so crazy. You're right. Like in that 50, like when you think about those first 50 chapters, there's like story after story of men not doing anything. They're
"Yeah,
like complete buffoons. Or they're saying, I guess the Tower of Babel would be like um them talking too much, but yeah, that's interesting. And Noah, wow.
yeah." Um, sorry, I was looking to see if I can find it right now.
I was vamping so you could find it.
Yeah, yeah.
How's my vamping, RO? Do you approve?
Man, I used to quote it constantly in session, but it's essentially he in the book he says there's three important messages to communicate to your sons, you know, and they are like essentially like I see you, like I'm here for you, like I see you, and two, you can do it, that you have what it takes, you
Yeah.
know. And there's another one, but like I thought a lot about that truth as I was a young father growing up with a son, about speaking truth into him, let him know that I'm here for him and that he has what
Mm,
it takes, right? And I'll tell you a quick story and then I know we can end here, but I I was my son and I many years ago. I don't know how old he was. He must have been like 4. We're riding bicycles to the park, and he was just like in a foul mood where he's just kind of whining and crying, And
yeah.
and I told him like, Hudson, like, if this behavior continues, like we're just gonna need to go home, like. And I mean, I think I said it in a loving, gentle way. I don't think I was like, stop crying, but I was like, hey, like we're gonna go back home. So riding the bike, and he flips over his handlebars and he starts crying and bawling. And he looks up at me with tears in his eyes and says, "Please don't take me home." And in that moment, what I realized in his mind that had connected was that I had told him to kind of stop whining and crying earlier, otherwise we're gonna go home. And now he
Yeah.
was really hurt. And the fact that he was crying made him think like this isn't okay for a boy. Otherwise, I'm gonna
Mm.
have to go home. And I just realized how quickly at a young age, and Larry Crabb talks about it, other authors talk about it, you learn that it's not safe to show emotion,
Yeah.
right? And that's not just men. Women have their own experience of that, but I'm talking about this book for men
Sure.
and how important it is to breathe life into your sons and to your daughters, no matter what age.
Yeah.
And so I love that you have prayers for your daughter, which is to breathe life into her, to speak truth into her through a prayer. And I was thinking, the thing I love about this book is it at an early age, again, when I was a young father, new to therapy, it gave me language to help men like breathe life into their sons. So
Dude. I mean, it's all about the peace cycle, bro.
yeah, back to
Like
the
when we lean into that, and what was the life that you gave to Hudson that day when he was sitting there broken on the street there?
what was the what?
What was the life you breathed into your son that day?
I don't remember. I think I wrote about this, or I think I did a podcast episode about it one day. I think I reflected on it. I'll have to remember, but like, I just went up and hugged him and said, "It's okay. No, like, it's okay to cry," and just held him. There was nothing to be done really, except he was a hold him in my arms and help him with the scuffs, and then we went on into the park when he was ready to go.
Mm.
Um, so, but yeah, well, we each we could do this. We could probably hit 100 books.
Oh, easily. Yeah.
So, and authors, and um, these are all important. The ones we didn't talk about are important. They've all breathed life into us, and we speak them to our
Yeah.
clients. And um, not to beat a dead horse here, but it made me think too. We should, for some episodes, bring some guests on and have them talk about the books that have um, been important to them in therapy, because I think we'll probably get even a wider range of voices and and stuff, which would be really great.
I know. I was debating between, I was like thinking off the shelf for clients, but
Yeah,
yeah, I was definitely debating. I was like, I have so many books that I think therapists should be reading. So we
yeah,
should definitely do that sometime.
yeah. There are. At one point, I had tried to keep a list online of like all the books that I think were important to read and stuff, but it's too hard to keep track of. And I know you and I like to read a lot. And um, hey, end with this. What are you reading right now?
Right now, I am in the middle of it's actually Brene Brown's new book.
Yeah.
What is the name of it? It's oh gosh, it's killing me.
strong,
Um
strong ground.
Strong Ground, thank you. Yes. Oh, so good. Yeah, Strong Ground. It's really, it's kind of her treatise on like how she's working with, we should have talked about this when we did the business episode.
Yeah, we'll talk
Business.
about it.
But yeah, like she talks about this experience that she had with her physical therapist about like really finding strong ground and how she didn't have balance and all these things. And it was great. It's great so far. We'll see how it turns out. I mean, it's Brene, so she's probably not going to break my heart too much, but just enough.
I
What
love
about
it.
you? What are you reading?
Okay, I am reading 5 books right now. So I'll just say real quickly. I'm finishing up The Machine.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, Against the Machine. And the subtitle is On the Unmaking of Humanity. Against the Machine, On the Unmaking of Humanity by Paul Kingsnorth. And
Sounds like a really picker upper.
dude, he's an Oxford guy, um, b- amazing writer, was an atheist and actually practiced witchcraft and had a radical conversion. And
Whoa.
kind of a friend of Wendell Berry, writes a lot about the
Oh
earth and
yeah,
stuff.
Wendell Berry.
But this new book is a lot about the machine and AI and humanity. And I will tell you, I am pretty disturbed. It's like a book you read and you can't unsee what you read.
Oh,
And it's really about systems in our
yeah.
environment and culture and stuff. And so I read that. My book club, we decided to read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Coelho,
Oh,
am I
did
saying
you?
that right? Yeah, I read that many years ago, and we're going to do that for fun.
Okay.
Um, I have an author that I love, Brad Stolberg, and he's got a new book coming out in January called The Way of Excellence: The Guide to
Oh,
True Greatness and Deep Satisfaction in a Changing World. So that's coming. I'm telling you his name because he's always talking about that old book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance,
yeah.
which is about craft a lot. And so I'm reading that because I'm really interested in craft.
Hmm.
And then the final book, which, dude, I am loving. Um, it's called The Salt Stones: Seasons of a Shepherd's Life by Helen Wybrow. And her and her husband live on a farm up in Vermont. And
Hmm.
they're just talking about being on that farm and raising sheep and what being a shepherd teaches you. And it's beautiful, dude. The book is
That's good.
beautiful. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right, sorry to drop five on you there, but I was like, there's so much good stuff out there.
Yeah. I have one more
Okay.
that might just for fun reading is Why We Love Baseball.
All
Um,
right.
yeah. And it's kind of Joe Pasansky's
Yeah,
like 50 things he loves about baseball, like 50 different stories. And there's just so many great, amazing like stories about baseball and how baseball connects to life. So,
I love
dude,
it.
it's fun to talk about these things.
Yeah, yeah. I hope people enjoy listening to this. We'll find out.
I
Episode.
mean, if we're talking about sheep, and the
Yeah.
life of sheep and, against the machine.
Well, episode 49. Stay tuned, people. Our last episode of the year, episode 50, coming up soon.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Later.
Cheers.